Pete, what's the cost of cars?
Costs a lot. I mean, if you think about it, there's the cost of buying a car and owning a car, and then the cost of running a car.
Okay, buying a car. The cost, I mean, that just seems evident. You have to buy the car, therefore that's the cost.
It's true though, but buying a car is more than what most of us, people don't have that money in their, we would call it an ashtray in the old days, but we might call it in their wallet these days, is people don't have that sort of money.
People don't even have wallets these days.
People don't have wallets. My kids just pay everything on their phone. So really, people don't have the amount of money that's normally needed to buy a car, so they are often trading in or cashing in some savings or maybe even borrowing to buy a car. So there's a bit of a hidden cost there to doing that.
Isn't the interest rate on cars in Australia averages about 7.5%, something like that?
It is. It's more expensive than a home loan. But I had a client the other week, got a loan for a bike, and the interest rate for a personal loan was 17.5%.
Ouch. So I'm hurting for your client.
Look, it hurts. And he was a younger person, so there's obviously a loading to it. But his $13,000 bike, his loan repayments were going to be $20,000 over the course of that. So if you think about it, car financed is fixed, which means it doesn't get cheaper by paying it back quicker. You have to pay back the whole amount of the finance contract. It never gets cheaper to pay it off, and you've bought a depreciating asset. So that's part of the cost of owning a car that people forget.
The cost of buying and then running a car, some of those running costs.
Your car costs money even if it never leaves the driveway. So registration, insurance, those costs are generally compulsory by your state government, and just by being a good citizen in the law, you have to insure and register your car. And then there's also fuel, repairs, tyres, tolls,
depending on what city you live in.
Tolls is a decent cost.
Oh, it is. Although, quick tip for young players, if you leave earlier in the morning, you can actually drive roads that are near toll roads, but don't go down the toll roads, toll adjacent, and that's free over there.
Okay, look at that.
I'll see you there at 5 o'clock in the morning, Parramatta Road in Sydney.
100%. And also tolls, I think we mentioned it in a previous episode way back, is there's generally cashbacks and things like that where you could approach the state government and get some of your tolls rebated.
Speaking of which, tax breaks on cost of cars?
Not as many as there used to be. There was one for there was one for EVs for a little while, but I think
that's not there.
That'll probably change now. There was a fringe benefits concession for EVs. Most state governments have cheaper registration for EVs. The problem with EVs is going to be not so much the cars themselves, but the fact we have fuel excise in Australia, but as we sort of spend less fuel and more electricity running our cars, there will need to be a more broad-based EV tax, for want of a better word, or EV charge. So yes, that's generally one of the other costs to consider.
And we haven't yet touched on costs of cars, new car or used car.
Yep.
And in the last couple of years, my wife and I, we bought a new car. Okay. We hadn't bought...
You bought something new. We need to do a deep dive in this. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, for real, new. I'd never done that in my entire life. Never thought I would be that guy that would drive a new car off the lot.
It's worth it just for the smell. How does the new car smell?
It's a really expensive smell.
It is, yeah.
Smells great. Sadly, doesn't last as long as you want it. Like the lifetime of the car, please.
Yep.
But we hadn't bought a new car. Our previous car was secondhand, a couple of years old, and that had lasted us about 12 years, something like that. It was great, but we wanted something a little bit bigger. And this is heading towards the new and the used. Yep. Previously, I just thought you're a mug if you bought a new car, because as soon as you sat in it, like opened the door, the depreciation.
New car smell is drifting out and dissolving as you speak.
That's right.
As quickly as your dollars.
That smells like losing $5,000 or $10,000 instantly.
Yep.
It just seemed like a ridiculous thing to do. And then, thank you, COVID, pandemic.
The landscape has changed.
Supply chain issues all around the world, and the delay on new cars coming into Australia causing the price of used cars to rise.
Definitely.
And we had a hybrid, and so the used car price on hybrid electric vehicles was also rising.
Yep.
So at a time where used cars are up and new cars were becoming around, for the price range we were looking in and the size of car, roughly equivalent for a car that was a couple of years old versus new.
Okay.
It was around the same cost. So all of a sudden, we seemed like mugs if we
That's a bit of a turn up for the books, because I'm generally the same, as I've said to friends and clients. New car, you definitely drop at least the GST when you drive off the lot. And also too, the depreciation is normally bigger in cars in the first couple of years. Often it could be as big as 50% in the first 2 to 3 years of a car. So that's interesting that new made sense for you. You're planning on keeping it longer too.
We are, and one of the things, many things that we weighed up as we're thinking about this purchase is we actually did have the finances available to us to buy the car without taking a loan. We'd been using an offset on our mortgage. Would highly recommend an offset if you don't have one on your mortgage. I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't, Pete.
It's the best savings and the best earnings you're ever going to get if you've got a home loan.
Hey, we've talked about houses and mortgages and should your adult kids pay board on a recent episode, Money, Faith and Finance. Check out the back catalogue wherever you are checking out Money, Faith and Finance right now. We had that money. We were able to use it up front, so didn't have to take out a loan.
Yep.
We also thought then about, okay, new car, that should at least drive, last better.
Warranty, you've got a bit of certainty
about
the cost
and the
of running
services as well, because they were starting to rise on the older car. And if we bought a second-hand car, always a little bit uncertain.
You're buying someone else's problems.
That's right. Is this going to be a lemon or is this really going to work out? So we weighed up those kind of costs and thought it was more in our financial interest to buy a new car.
I know. I'm still struggling with it. I'm like, who are you and what have you done with the real Ben? I'm not totally convinced.
And then, Pete, as we're talking about the cost of cars, in this last 2 years, I now can't believe I'm this guy saying this, that not only were we able to...
Which guy are you? There's so many guys at the moment.
Well, apparently I'm this guy who we were able to get a new car, and then my wife got a new job, and with her job came the opportunity of traveling around more at work, which was looking like we would need a second car. Like, how did we get to this place?
You got there quick.
As people who love public transport, who really don't like tolls and some of the other costs that come with running a car, here we are faced with, and you might be exactly in this position like us. You've got a car, and then plenty of people in their households, for whatever reason, you're weighing up a second or a third or a fourth car, whatever it might be. We're not at that stage yet. We've actually gone, I was going to say beyond the second car. We haven't really. We're still at the first car because we decided not to get the second car.
Okay, so you just sort of thought, not so much what's the best way to get a car, what's the best way to get around?
Yes, which took us a while. It took us, I reckon, a month or two.
That's good though, because otherwise it's easy to say go buy something, right? Everybody goes, we need a car, let's get the best car. It's like, well, let's stop and think first principles of the problem is, what's the real issue? Is getting the boss around. So can she do that through public transport? Ride sharing? Can we be smart? There's a lot of factors go into, do I really need a car and do I really need the second car?
The boss? You mean my wife?
Yeah, sorry, I call everybody the boss, especially my wife.
Yeah,
she hates it. I call everybody the boss, because then how is she really the boss? I know, but I was giving her the credit she's due.
It sounds like you got to that question around how do we get around way faster than we did. We jumped quickly to what sort of second car do we need? And we drifted at that point to, we did weigh up new, and we were looking at used again for the reasons that we just discussed. But it took us, I reckon a month, maybe into the second month of coming around to, wait a minute, how do we get around? What do we need day to day to work?
How often would we need it too?
What can we make work? And decided that the additional cost, all those things that you listed off before about the cost of a first vehicle, we thought if we're going to do that on a second one, and we've basically, for a lot of times, like you said, going to be leaving it at home, what's the point of doing that? It just to us seemed like we're just going to tip good money after bad.
Yeah, look, it's the decision matrix you've got to have is cost versus convenience. A lot of people, like my wife and I, both work a fair way from where we live and both use our cars for work. We have to have two cars. We've had 3 children. We've just generally meant we've been needing to drive, and that's the price we paid, and we're okay with that. But for other people, I'm like, you don't necessarily need 2 cars. You might be very well located. There's a lot of decisions in people's lives that would impact their need for a second vehicle. If they're near a train station, if they're near a metro, if they're near public transport, can they walk to things? Even with work from home. So many people I know work from home 2 days a week. Well, if you've got a car, does that mean your car just got 40% less useful? There's 2 days you don't drive it anywhere. Like you might only be in your car 5-10 hours a week. What, now you're in it 5 hours a week? It's a lot of money to pay for something that's not actually used that many days a week. Like at least your bed. We should spend more on our bedding. We're in the bed a third of a day, 8 hours a night. Why don't we spend more on our beds instead of our cars?
As you move past the bedroom and through to the garage, what do you think people are overlooking when it comes to the cost of cars?
I think they're overlooking, how do I fund the purchase and paying for it? And also to what happens when I exit the car? So people think, I'm okay, I can afford the repayments. The repayments might be $200 a week on my 40 grand car. What they don't realize is it's probably going to wear out, and I'm going to at least want a car that's as good or probably more expensive. But when I go to get that 50 grand car, because prices generally increase on cars over time, the car I'm trading in might be worth 10, 15, 20. Oh, by the way, I got a loan for it, and the loan's still 25. My car's worth 15. Oh, and I want a nicer car next time. So I think people forget the financing and the opportunity cost of what they could have done with the other money.
And do you reckon that here in Australia, we are still such a relatively car-obsessed country that when I come to think about my possible purchase of a car and the cost of it, that I can sometimes leave my beliefs and values behind. So I might be someone who is down with public transport, who wants to pollute the planet less. Maybe I might even be thinking, it feels a little bit unchristian of me to be really coveting that really expensive car over there, but I'm willing to put it to one side because I definitely need
it. Look,
that massive SUV to take my kids to school.
Yeah, look, I think there's a sense that a lot of the biggest selling cars, I think there was some stat, 7 of the top 10 selling cars in Australia last year were utes or SUVs. I've got a lot of tradie clients. I've got a lot of clients that have utes that aren't tradies too. Sorry, everybody. So I think we need bigger cars than what we actually need. And those bigger cars wear the road out quicker. They take more petrol. They're tougher on tyres. They're sometimes tougher on servicing because they're driven differently. So I don't think we need as bigger cars as what we need, but I'm not even convinced we need the number of cars that we've got.
Especially when your kids are trying to go to school and they're trying to walk across a road. And now, in comparison, when I was a kid and thinking about crossing a road, it didn't seem that difficult.
There wasn't as many cars in the old days, mate.
Maybe it was the horse and cart.
Yeah.
But I could look out from the side of the road and get a fairly clear visual now with all the SUVs and
100%.
And utes, including our SUV, is blocking vision.
So you're part of the problem.
Of like getting across the street. Like,
quit being part of the problem, be part of the solution.
Talk about the cost of cars that we don't necessarily weigh up. Where, this is making it more difficult, not just to find a park nowadays, but for my own children to walk across the street.
Yeah, I think so. Look, even teaching our youngest child to drive now, we've noticed even in the time between teaching our oldest and our youngest to drive is how many more cars are parked on the street and how much bigger they are. So for us, the peripheral vision and the panic factor of we're going to hit that car because the cars are bigger on either side of the road. So driving down an average size road has shrunk in the last 5 to 10 years because the cars parked are bigger.
Wow, that is a lot of cost of cars that we're talking about there. And to bring it all home, Pete, drive us back into the garage, show me the money.
You can't forget the full cost of ownership of a car. It's not just the running costs and when you put the petrol in at the Bowser or plug it in and get your electricity into it. It's the cost of buying it, it's the cost of paying it off, and it's what you're going to lose when you one day trade it in or sell it. You need to think of those costs.
And do you need that car? Or will another one do? Or maybe no car at all? I'm Ben McKecken from Hope Mornings. You are Pete Burrows from Lower Russell and Farr at Penrith, accountant with small businesses and individuals. Pete, throughout what we've been discussing here, I think underneath all of this too is flowing an idea of contentment. Can you be happy with what you've got or what you might have? And very conveniently, we did a recent episode on contentment, which just quietly we're very content with. And you will be too.
Some of our best content. Come on. Come on.
It's like we workshopped this before, and you might be able to tell we didn't, but you can find it wherever you're getting the podcast. Leave us a comment, get in touch with the Money, Faith and Finance team at hopepodcast.com.au. Love to hear from you about your cost of cars, especially around the decision making. Did you get a good deal? Did you not get so much of a good deal? Did you buy that second car? And what has been the cost? We would love to hear from you. Share, subscribe episodes, spread the love about money, faith and finance so more people can deeply consider the practical and profound of your money. See you later, Pete Burrows. Did I mention I'm Ben McKecken from Hope Mornings?
You did, but say it again.
Well, I just did. I'll see you next time.